Hey there, Cinemaster fans. Hope you're ready for some movie magic. Let's dive right in. The movie began with Mike, who went to the bank to meet Elena and asked her to give him a new loan, but she refused because the old credit hadn't ended. She told him he needed to cooperate with his family. At first, he didn't respond, but he couldn't ignore it because he had a big problem to solve. His problem was that he was helping smugglers from Russia smuggle a ton of caviar on a small fishing boat. However, the boat owner told Mike that the boat couldn't carry more than 600 kilograms. Mike reassured him, saying, "Don't worry, it's only 600 kilograms," when in reality, he had a ton. On the way, Mike tasted caviar for the first time and liked it a lot, but soon, the boat lost balance in the water and sank. When they retrieved it from the sea, the fishermen were furious and attacked him. At this point, Mike had to give them his new car and take his old one as compensation for the loss of the sunken boat. Back to Mike and Elena, who went to visit her family. They lived with Louis, her brother Tolik, who always failed his military exams due to his respiratory illness, her perpetually grumpy grandfather Pavel, her older sister Rita, who dreamed of becoming a famous actress, and her younger sister Sasha, who was always in a hurry and acted older than her age. When they arrived at the house, they found Tolik taking care of everyone, feeding and managing the house. Meanwhile, little Sasha was busy running around. Mike tried to impress Elena's father and asked him to take out a loan using their house as collateral, but the father refused, and Mike couldn't convince him. At that exact moment, a meteor fell from the sky and landed on their house. The meteor crashed through the roof and dug a hole in the ground where it buried the grandfather. The family panicked and ran outside. After realizing it was just a meteor, they returned home, dug out the grandfather, and started repairing the damage. They also searched underground for the meteor to sell it. Everyone worked tirelessly until they were exhausted and fell asleep, except for Mike, who kept working until morning. Eventually, he managed to retrieve the meteor. At that moment, the grandfather called Mike over and gave him advice to take care of the family before passing away. Mike went to wake Elena to tell her that her grandfather had died, but she was asleep and didn't wake up. He decided to wait until she woke up, but he fell asleep from exhaustion. A while later, they were startled when they saw the meteor melting into a liquid. They found little Sasha holding a piece of it and helping them easily. However, when they looked again, there was nothing left. They heard strange noises and saw Elena descending the stairs, but only her legs were visible. The upper half of her body was invisible. Everyone was shocked and started screaming. Mike, overwhelmed with fear, saw the grandfather standing in the room alive, but then collapsed and died again. Rita flew away outside, but after moving a short distance from the house, she fell. The grandfather came back to life again, and Elena's upper body reappeared. When they regrouped, Rita fainted again, but they quickly restrained her. The grandfather came back to life once more, but this time Elena disappeared entirely. This angered her, so she left them and went to her room. As soon as she left, the grandfather died again, and Rita stopped fainting. Little Sasha could no longer bend metal. However, when Elena returned, everyone regained their powers. At this point, Mike realized that the meteor had given them superpowers, but these powers only worked when they were together. Later, they visited a doctor to check on them, but he found nothing unusual and only prescribed them some vitamins. During dinner, Mike suggested they use their newfound powers for something useful. The grandfather warned them that if anyone found out, they would be taken away and experimented on. Tolik discovered his ability to communicate with dogs, which made him very happy. That night, while everyone was asleep, Mike asked Elena if her family had always been this way, but she was thinking about him instead. He wondered if their future children would inherit these superpowers. The next morning, the grandfather tried to hang himself, but he didn't die. Meanwhile, Louis discovered his ability to teleport after an accident in the bathroom. He told the family they needed to go somewhere far to train their powers. They all went to a lake and started practicing. Mike suggested they could use their powers to get rich by robbing a bank, since Elena could steal money and disappear without anyone seeing her. However, the father refused. Mike got angry and told him that none of their powers would work if they didn't cooperate. The father dismissed him, saying he didn't care and told Mike to leave if he wanted. Mike was upset because he wanted money at any cost. But the father remained adamant. Mike took Elena with him, and as they were driving, they were stopped by the Russian gangsters who were after their money. They confronted Mike, demanding their money. He begged for 1 month to repay them, but their leader gave him only 1 week, threatening to kill him if he didn't pay. After they left, Elena realized the seriousness of Mike's situation and agreed to help him. Later, they took Louis to see a beautiful house they could afford if they robbed the bank. However, Louis refused, saying he liked his current home and didn't want to leave. Elena was upset and told him their house was no longer livable and nothing worked in it. She started crying, and Louis, unable to hurt her feelings, agreed to do what she wanted. They returned home, gathered the family, and devised a plan to rob the bank. That night, they celebrated in advance, confident that they would soon be wealthy. Little Sasha, feeling jealous when she saw Mike sitting close to her sister, interrupted them to sit with it. The next morning, she wore makeup to impress him and told the family that if they wanted her to participate in the plan, they had to let her and Mike go out alone. Meanwhile, Rita demanded they book her a theater performance where she could fly. Mike refused, but Louis reminded him that if he wanted their help, he needed to support their dreams too, what they wanted. At that time, Rita sensed danger and took it to the theater. She did this to achieve the home's potential for the theater. She impressed him, and he decided to make her work there. At night, Mike discovered he had a superpower because he realized he could escape his hideout. Mike, Elena, and Sasha went to her. They walked in front of the bank they planned to rob to see what would happen. Elite grabbed Elena and said, "I will marry Mike." Elena laughed and said, "All right." When they returned home, Mike entered and found Tulik improving his hair. He told them, "I will no longer be with you in the robbery because I've been accepted into the military." Mike couldn't let his plan fail. He bribed an officer with money, asking him not to accept Tulik's application. When Tulik got the news of the rejection, he was told to stay home. They were told to complete the operation in the military. Despite this, they took the family to buy their grandfather. The condition was to complete the operation and let the grandfather die in peace. The official gave them a paper with a code to hang on the deceased's chest. The grandfather took the paper, hung it on his chest, and the man just stared, confused. Later, Mike took Sasha out for coffee as she wanted, but Elena was secretly with them. The whole family was there, hiding. The Russian gang was also in the same cafe, watching Mike. They had a table they were threatening over again. Sasha got angry and beat them up, dragging them to the ground. But Mike got scared and ran away. When he was far, Sasha lost her power and ran away too. The whole family followed her. They got in the car and escaped. At night, they all watched Tulik train the dog and the sheep with his ability. The next day, the family went to the bank for Elena to retrieve the secret codes they needed. They parked the car in the sun because the shaded area was reserved for employees. Elena took off her clothes, disappeared, and entered the bank. Mike also entered and showed the emergency escape route. The family waited outside. The sun hit them, so they moved slightly into the shade. But a bank vehicle carrying money arrived. One of them told them to move to another spot because it wasn't theirs. Louis refused to move because if Elena got too far, she would lose her power. But the money vehicle started pushing them until they moved. Elena lost her power and became visible. She was standing next to an employee who saw her, along with an elderly customer. Tulik called Mike and asked what happened. Mike ran out, gathered the family, and brought them close to the bank door. As soon as they got close, Elena disappeared again. The employee and the old man, seeing this, convinced themselves they were imagining things. She quickly exited and got into the car. Before they could leave, a police car arrived, and officers approached them. Louis panicked and sneaked into the police car. The officers approached and asked if everything was okay. Mike replied, "Yes, everything is fine." After the police left, they opened their car and found Louis sitting inside. He still couldn't control his movements. The police didn't understand how he got into their car, so they had to arrest him. At that moment, Mike followed the police car to get Louis out. He was very angry, but things calmed down. Later, he invited Rita, telling her she had a show tomorrow night. The next night, they went to the theater. Backstage, she prepared herself but was very confused and couldn't control her power. She flew out into the street. Mike wanted to go after her, but the gang caught him and beat him on stage. Mike shouted at them all, calling them fools for ruining everything. He left, but the father didn't let him go. He kidnapped him and said, "This is what we'll rob the bank for." Rita flew and placed a chain to distract from the bank's window. Sasha went and sprayed the cameras with a large amount to avoid detection. Afterward, she went to Louis and used the chains to pull down the window. The grandfather went to talk to three elderly men standing in front of the bank to distract them. Louis snuck inside the bank while Elena, invisible, entered to disable the alarm system, and Sasha broke the iron door. She grabbed the safe. Rita was flying above the bank and quickly informed them that the police car had arrived. Tulik called his dogs and released them on the police to delay them. Meanwhile, the others started collecting the money. The grandfather caused a fire to divert the police's attention to the men with them, who were arrested. The family escaped at that moment, happy with the money they had taken. They stopped at a beachside location. The grandfather told them to leave and let him die in peace. He passed away. They bid him farewell with tears and left. But when they saw him fall, they felt bad and returned to it. When they returned, the grandfather woke up angry, saying, "I want to die in peace. Go and leave me." The father said, "We don't want to separate. We must stay together and live the dream we wanted." The grandfather replied, "We can't live together now because the police are looking for the thief. We must separate, each going to a different country." The grandfather then said, "If you want to do something, do it now, because I called the police to come and take my grandfather." This meant they had to leave quickly. They bid him farewell for the second time and left. On the way, they started dividing the money among themselves. But Elena was very upset about the grandfather. She told Mike, "Let's return the money we stole." But he refused. She gave him his share of the money and said, "Fine, go your way and don't come back to us." She decided to end their relationship at that moment. Mike took the money, and the first thing he did was pay off what he owed the gang. He used the remaining money on himself, wrapping it around his body with tape. Then he went to the airport to leave the country. But before he boarded, he heard the news that the family was caught by the police as they found them trying to take out the body they had taken from the cemetery. When Mike got on the plane, he felt bad and couldn't leave without helping them. So he got off before the plane took off. He went to the man who sells graves and gave him all the money he had to return the body of the grandfather. The official, though he didn't understand the story of these people wanting the body so badly, took the money and agreed to give him the body. At that time, the family was in court. Mike brought the grandfather in a wheelchair, and as soon as he entered the courtroom, the grandfather woke up and the others regained their strength. At that moment, Elena disappeared, and the grandfather started hitting everyone with his cane. The father moved his head out of the cage and attacked the guard, while Sasha broke the metal bars with her hands and freed Utalik. Amarita flew and snatched the file from the case, and they took down everyone else. When they got out, they found the police surrounding them. Rita flew over them, distracting the police. The family then took the police car and escaped in it, with the police chasing them. But each of them used their special abilities to save themselves. That's when they discovered that even Mike had a superpower, and they were happy for him. Rita used her ability and made the car fly, allowing them to escape the police. Afterward, they went to those smugglers and gave them money to help them escape the country. The smugglers arranged the journey for them and planned to send them in a container where they would stay for 20 days at sea until they reached the other country where they would settle. And here, our movie ends. I hope you enjoyed the summary. Don't forget to watch the previous summaries and subscribe to watch the upcoming ones. Take care and see you in the next video. See you